For folks who have joined, thanks for joining. Good evening, and really glad to have you here. If there are questions and all, please feel free to share in the chat. We're going to get started now. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar that we have today on navigating the complexity of India's regulatory maze. We have, obviously Vishnu on, with us. He is an industry expert who's worked with startups, mid-scale companies, enterprises, banks, different manufacturing companies, etc. And we want to keep this webinar more informative rather than make it very boring. So, we will focus on real life case studies, ask Vishnu to give examples from what he has seen, and we'll make it as realistic as possible rather than make it just a, general Gyan session. That said, let me quickly introduce Vishnu. He has been a cybersecurity expert with, more than 2 decades of experience. He is, I think, more certifications than I think I will ever accumulate. Extremely tenured, a good friend, and I've seen personally how effective he is in his advisory. He works right now as a virtual CISO. Vishnu, anything if you would like to add from your side, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll get started right in. And welcome to the webinar for everyone.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks. It's precise. Actually, it is more than enough for our current context. We can move forward. And good evening to all.
Right. So today we are going to cover a few of the regulatory compliance frameworks, etc., in India, which covers not just the regulatory bodies like RBI, SEBI, MeitY, IRDAI, but also the different categories that they typically cover when it comes to these sort of all of these regulatory bodies have a lot of certifications. Some of these regulations, etc., have overlapping requirements. So not only do they ask for the same thing in multiple different ways, some of that is also an overlap with other commonly used frameworks, like for example the ISO framework or NIST, or requirements from those sort of industry-wide attestations, if I can say that. There are multiple, given India there's a multiplicity of regulations, and if you're of course working cross-border, then you also have even more things to take care of. So in this webinar we'll try to break down some of these common used things, try to come up with more practical questions, practical insights from Vishnu, and let me dive in right away. So some of the things that like I mentioned, people have to think about when it comes to regulators is also how they overlap with the industry best practices. What is the global alignment? Like we have seen SOC 2, we have seen GDPR, we have seen DPDP now come in India itself. In the Middle East itself, if you think about, Middle East has their own privacy, sort of regulations now, which are somewhat similar to GDPR or even the DPDPA, maybe a little bit more nuance that Vishnu can provide there. But not only that, there's also the risk management aspect, but each one of these regulators take a strong view on. And industries are typically finding that risk management practices are becoming more and more complex. Vishnu, would love to pass it on to you at this point, just to tee things off, talk about some of these areas.
Yeah, fantastic, Gaurav. So first of all, thanks for putting the context. Actually, so if you ask me from India perspective, so the entire discussion is on how India is helping us, or from a government of India perspective, how things are moving. That's the area which we are discussing. But when it comes to India, what are the major challenges? It's a regulatory approach, and being a regulatory approach, it is rather than a guideline methodology only. It is not given as any standards or any frameworks to be followed. So having said that, all this regulatory compliance, based on my understanding and observation with the experiences which has been got implemented, it has been derived from any one of the industry best practices framework available globally. So that way it will help us to align where it's the requirement is there. So earlier, what I have seen in a previous scenarios is obviously it was a checklist approach, and it was just meeting some alignments in terms of IT along with security. Then things, as if we evolve, now we are talking up to AI level. So that's how the journey was there. But after say post I can say COVID days, all the approaches are being changed to risk-based approach only. If you take ISO 27001, the 2022 version is purely a risk-based approach. So that's how the entire compliance ecosystem has got changed. Now we are going towards that path only. Why? Because the checklist approach will not, or it's not sufficing the actual business whenever something goes wrong. Say, if you go to big enterprise, they will say, I have deployed everything, I'm following everything, but still attacks are happening. So, as a terminology goal, compliance is not security, and security is not compliance, and everything is having its own equilibrium, right? So, in that case, that's where things are coming into the picture, and slowly we are going on a risk approach rather than approach where it is going to be on a paper based or governance based thing. So that is the context, Gaurav, to start with.
So I think, Vishnu, one of the things that you brought out, which was the tick the box or the checklist approach, uh, would you say that businesses default to that because that's intrinsically easier? Because you also have to make that trade-off in terms of how many resources that you can actually put. I mean, companies, they will typically put a lot more, or resources, be it in terms of budgetary investments or other areas, on things which are revenue focused, unless it is an existential question for them. How much resources can practically companies put to this? Like, for example, if you take a SOC 2 report, people just want a SOC 2 report as quickly as possible, but if it's something that they have to submit to the RBI or to FEMA or any of those compliances, then it's an existential problem. Then the level of resources is higher. So would you say that the risk-based approach is going to help us move away from the checkpost, or is there a different thing that we should consider?
See, it's a chicken egg story,
Yeah.
Gaurav. So from the selection perspective, if you take, see, one approach will not fit actually, right? Say, for
Yeah.
example, the requirement with startup or SME kind of a segment will be entirely different from a practice where it is above middle level companies and enterprise. So that is the area which we need to see first, criteria. Yes, see, when I am having said that, what is the problem majorly is we can't put the context for startups to have a risk-based approach because everything is being built from scratch. So that way it will take its own time to adopt. There, to start with, the checkbox scenarios will be uh, uh, apt for that particular time period. But having said that, what is the major drawback from our industry perspective is the expectation is from all the compliance driven requirement is to have security by design or privacy by design or other things. But actually what we do is in a practical scenarios, security or privacy or any other areas, it will be a afterthought, or it is going to be like, as I said, chicken egg story. Once the businesses get success, then how we can cover up and how we can build security on top of it or compliance on top of it. That's how the scenarios are going. For startups, yes, my view will be is to start with, at least we can have a baseline with a checklist approach. But once we are getting matured, we should be reaching on the risk-based methodology. Then only we can able to have a better view in terms of what is actually happening in the industry, in the particular organization given. So this is one part, because once we in the checklist approach, what is the major challenges? It will not help us to scale. It will not help us to integrate, because when we start, it will be one business, one location. But if it is going for more than three locations or multiple locations, as the business demand goes, there will be a different need will come. So it will evolve, right? So if the evolve is going to happen, then we need to see how we can optimize to that part, so that I can cover in my experiences, for example, in a bit. So if I want to put it in the context today, I'm also doing audits, various kind of audits. I'm currently doing an audit for a fintech, where
Yeah.
the expectation from the fintech perspective is last year I got everything complied. Now this year, what is the change? So last year you complied because there is a baseline. Now I just want to sit the gear. Can we see whether is there any further risk is evolved? How we have got various certifications and requirements? can we get aligned? That is the context we need to put. Obviously, the last piece is cost, because end of the day, as you mentioned, no standards, no guidelines are saying that you need to have all the top solutions of the world. They are saying, are you able to get a visibility and manage things better? So that's what they are asking with the given resource. So that's where the consulting engagements are coming, the other kind of engagements are coming, where they can leverage as per the business thrives. So that is the way I can put it across.
Got it. Got it. I think that's super helpful. Moving to probably, one of the other things which I think you also partially covered, that some of the implementation challenges when startups become a little larger. Uh, I think one of the things is also the kind of resources, skilled resources that startup have access to. But equally important is the resistance to change. You work with banks, you work with, say for example, manufacturing setups, etc. Do you perceive the more financially, maybe the highly regulated industries like financial services, etc., to be more open to this sort of thing, or how do you view the process of change management here?
So, see, adoption is, or those things will be a little bit challenge in any geo part. That is one area. It's not only to specific one vertical. See, what is the problem is today, any given organization, they need to have multiple frameworks. Say multiple framework is, they will start with ISO, then somebody will say, I need, if you are having an application to be get hosted, they will ask SOC 2. Then slowly, if it is going to be a fintech or NBFC or those kind of a BFSI sector, RBI and SEBI will come into the picture. So like this, multiple things are going in place. That is from the outside of the requirement. The second thing is inside. What is a major challenge for any given organization is, first of all, there is a major challenge in terms of cultural shift. So the cultural shift will not happen that easily, because the ultimate aim of this particular approach, wherever the governance comes into the picture, is to have a cultural shift in terms of how we behaving in the digital world. Say, if
Right.
I want to put the context in a personal way, the way we use mobile Instagram, the way we use tab or iPad Instagram, the same account, the way we use in our laptops will be entirely different, and the algorithm also will be behave like that only. So that is the case where that constraints are coming into the picture. So we need to see how the adoption is going to be happen. It is not like one day one switch of the button it will take place. It will take its own course of journey. That's where as the other way I want to put it across is, the one context is how much is enough. So when it comes to skilled resource or technology is concerned, how much is enough? Nobody is having a clear answer. For me, what is the, from a CISO perspective, or what I will put it across is, you give a value on the ROI and TCO part for a given solution or given controls to be, which has got implemented, then go for the next stages. Otherwise, what will happen is you will have a chaos journey only, where nothing will be completed and everything will be half the way scenario only. So that is the way I can see, to put the context at a high level. Gaurav.
Understood. Right. So also, I think one of the areas where a lot of these resources go is the overlap.
Yes.
You have so many of these frameworks which essentially, have multiple requirements from different regulators or from different frameworks which ask for the same thing. At this point, would you say that technology is going to help us drive this, or is it just going to make it more complex? What has been your experience, when you have been doing audits as a lead auditor as well?
Okay, so see, if you take my experience concern, uh, 3 years back or 4 years back, it will be kind of one single frameworks adoption will be there. That is one part. Slowly now, major organizations are getting changed, where there is a mandate based on our business enhancement, based on the various requirements. Multiple things are coming to the picture, but what is the major problem is selecting a particular framework. That is the major thing. See, when it comes to BFSI, for example, it is not only RBI. So RBI is saying something, but beyond that, master direction what you need to get the ecosystem to run. That's the challenge which the standards and other global compliance will come. Say, for example, if I don't have any budget in terms of governance part for these kind of frameworks, I will prefer to choose NIST because NIST is free to adopt, free to use, and it will help us to give a baseline. Then we can go for ISO. That is the way I will pivot and I will take it requirement. That is one way of approaching the implementation. Yes, from the audit perspective, what is the challenges? What I have seen from big enterprises, they will go through multiple audits only. The tool. This is the actual audit periods. I'm at least doing for 6 to 7 audits for this given point of time. And same customer I may do 2 or 3 audits, and they may I may ask the same question. They need to give the same answer in a different way. So can we have a common framework? That's where slowly secure common frameworks and all things are coming. But it's a long way to go. It's not 1 year or 2 year approach. Why? Because business also will not have any idea on when they are having that kind of requirement to have multiple things. So my suggestion and recommendation is have a strong foothold in one framework at least, so that the mapping and the pivoting will be easy. And from there, whenever we are going to face the audits, it will help any organization to go. And having said that, the other major challenges, every audit, whatever we go through is running through Excel sheets only. So sometimes the versioning, the commenting will be always a little bit a challenge. So if we can embrace so many tools which is available in the market, like your organization, which is one of the in providing that part, which will help us to do 2 things. One is saving the record so that I don't need to recreate those evidences every time until unless there is a huge impact in the change in terms of implementation and other things. And also I can have a revision history of last whatever the years going through. So that is the way I'm looking for, so that it will help not only from auditor's perspective to save the time, it will help to bring the organization to streamline whatever the practice they are going through very effectively. So this is one part I can put it across there.
Absolutely. I think some of the sector specific nuances you already covered, but let's try to, also let me also maybe put you a little more, interesting question is, what are some of the observations or an auditor observations you've seen when you've actually gone to enterprises and you've audited them? Because I'm sure you have no, shortage of interesting experiences that you would have seen when large companies are going through such sort of, they're trying to do multiple compliances and they're coming to you for advice. Are there any, anecdotes that you can share here?
Okay, see, so before going there, these are all the known guidelines or regulatory bodies. But I just want to touch upon 2 other regulatory bodies, which is not there. There are so many which I am also not aware. If I want to put the context, so one is TRI. Is there any dedicated framework for or guidelines for cybersecurity? Maybe last to 2 years before it was not there, but now it is there. But still it's not mandatory. That is one part. So the other part, one surprising area which I can put it across is there any thing for energy and power from Government of India? So there is a guidelines available. So there is a audits are going through. So this is the surprises I will get, Gaurav, in terms of not only the known guidelines as known compliances which we are following, which we are aware of in generic, but there are other areas are doing. If you, in fact, today also had a call with one of the customer where they are doing a energy generation through natural resources. They come with a compliance body under the Ministry of Power, and that is having authority for central of electrical power or electricity energy authority. So they have some guidelines where they are also talking about data localization and all. So this kind of surprises we we do get, apart from whatever the known security part. So as you, to come back to your question, what is the major challenge with Gaurav? Most of the, see, ideologically, what is the problem with our ecosystem across India is we will have an afterthought only. So if I want to put it across in a Hindi comment, jab hoga dekh lenge. So when it happens, we will take care. That is a kind of scenario where we are going still, but the this kind of regulatory bodies are pushing all the organizations to slowly becoming proactive. So in that context, from the last experiences, whatever I have seen, there is a huge change. There is a adoption of these kind of guidelines or standards very mandatorily by most of the organizations, and some of the organizations are catching up because they, as we discussed earlier also, there is a huge challenge in terms of understanding the skilled resources, understanding the concepts. So when we say that this will not apply, so today also for one of the audits they are saying that last time we got these areas, for example, IR documentation is more than enough for incident response, but what about tabletop exercise? Have we given a thought? So these gaps will be there. So some people are having ideology or thought to have everything in document way. Some people feel purely on practical approach. But what is the problem is they I will again miss the documentation part. So this is how the journey is going on because it is purely based on the leadership, the way that is getting driven. But slowly the gap is getting minimized. But from India perspective, it is far way to go. But having said that, it will happen by next 3 to 5 years in at least the known sectors which are all established part. But the other sectors are like manufacturing, education, for example.
Yeah.
I'm coming across one play school. They are also having ISO requirement. So that is the kind of world we are going through. So slowly, those kind of implementations are coming into the picture. Yeah.
Understood. Thanks. I think that is, all this is also kind of going to eventually, come to things like the DPDP Act, which is coming in, or even the AI ML, that we are looking in terms of compliance automation itself, adoption of zero trust. These are some of the things definitely that, we'll see. Also, I've seen that, when it comes to, for example, the DPDP itself, so most companies are still in the mode of figuring out, okay, what do we have to do, and how much of the knowledge that we have from, say, a GDPR, perspective, how much of that can we repurpose and reuse for DPDPA? Because at least the perception is that there is a lot of similarity. Would you say that perception is accurate, or how should we think about it, especially since that it's coming right up now?
Yeah, whatever you mentioned is on the point, on the dot, actually, Gaurav. So there is a major overlaps when it comes to comparing DPDA with GDPR. The same with Saudi, same with Qatar, same with Oman. So all those are all having an inheritance or references of GDPR the way it applies. But what is the one major difference I want to bring in is DPDA is the only act where it is going to be turned as a law. All the other RBI master directions, SEBI, CCRF, or IRDA cyber security, or energy power, all these are all guidelines. There is no mandate to follow. But if we are not following, we will run out of the business. That is one part. But DPDA is the only thing where it touches not only the organization, it touches each and every individual citizen. That is a major differentiator. Things are coming now. In that context, people are trying to adopt very effectively. Even though it is not came into the picture, most of the enterprises are already been compliant. But why it has not been compliant for smaller organization is because they don't have the fundamental of basic security baseline itself. That's the reason. So DPDA is more on privacy part, right? So that's where the challenge of adopting those scenarios are getting delayed. But once they are also coming into that maturity, they will be in a position to come out that part. So at that time, if those kind of customers are already GDPR compliant, they will be having a just one single pivot to move to DPDA very easily. So that's the context I can put it across.
No, I
Uh,
think in India itself, we have so many companies which are not just B2B, but even if you think about consumers in a B2C context, tomorrow, if let's say Swiggy has to think about how do they comply with the DPDPA, or Zomato has to think about these sort of app-based companies. I think these are very interesting times that we are coming. We are not really sure how all of this will play out, but definitely compliance in India with respect to privacy is going to be a seminal shift, at least. I mean, we have not really taking it so seriously as of now, but I think coming soon we will see some of these changes come in. Just like we had, all these shifts coming in when you started adopting things like zero trust. In India, privacy is going to be quite a new one, I would say.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, please.
I think maybe, I know we are probably in the last few minutes of our conversation, Vishnu. So would love to also maybe, pivot to maybe a case study of a real life, implementation that you had when it comes to all these multiple frameworks of regulators themselves and the
Yeah.
regulations from probably mid-size or enterprise level, customers that you worked with. And any practical insights that you can share and the lessons that you had that you feel that people should know and be aware of as they get into these sort of overlapping extremely complex frameworks and audits.
Yeah, I will put it in one small crux actually. So this is for one of the largest NBFC which I am handling for uh, some decent years. The major
Okay.
challenge, not only for this organization, but every organization is the interruption or interpretation of the given guidelines, the given standards will be differ from people to people and experience part. Say, for example, if there should be a security awareness on what? Security is a generic word. So this kind of a play can be happen because cybersecurity awareness is entirely different from privacy awareness, right? So we need to first of all categorize that part itself. So this kind of a gap is there within the top management also. So they see from them perspective, it is IT is IT. So they can't chunk it to cyber security separately, AI separately, cloud separately. For them, it is one department which will take care of everything. But under that one umbrella, there are so many other things are there, which the differentiator is not happening a little white earlier, but now slowly people are getting understood that part also from top level. I'm talking from a board level perspective also. So that's where the challenge is. See now, the interpretation is becoming a differentiation in terms of implementation because some people will say RBI is saying to have only 50 policies for my business, but some people will say I will have 120 policies.
Hmm.
So having said that, that policies has to be get adopted and until that controls is got implemented, we need to go towards that part. So that adoption is not happening. So it will take its own time. Why? Because cyber security or GRC is the one particular domain where we have versatile education background people. So that is one of the contexts I can put it across. That's why this kind of a differentiator is happening. But slowly people are also getting adopted, aware of what is actually going through, and we are pivoting towards in a very positive way. I can put it across.
Right. Right. I think some of these misconceptions you already covered, where you already mentioned compliance equals security is really a myth that is long past its sell by date. Or for the matter, things like certifications equaling security. But anything else that you would like to add on to any misconception that we have not mentioned on this slide, or anything that you feel that people should definitely look at?
So the misconception is, see, that's why I said I highlighted in couple of slides where the expectation is that as we have a two thought process actually. So somebody is thinking that some of the organization, some of the uh, top management thinking if I'm having everything in paper, I'm secure.
Yeah.
So that is one misconception which I am seeing. Some people are very good in technical part, but they are having a biggest challenge in terms of documentation. this challenge is going to be there every time, but slowly that's where our kind of areas will come into the picture to help them to bridge the gap. So this why, because why we need this expectation. So why that is the main area which we need to see from a given organization perspective. XYZ can be there tomorrow, ABC can be replaced, but if ABC want to pick up from where he so far been got followed, so in that context they need to understand at least what has been happened. So that's where the documentation part comes into the picture to help very effectively, Gaurav. So this is one of the other area where I am seeing apart from this. And the one part, as I highlighted, audit is not only for larger enterprises, it is going for small enterprises also.
Right. No, I think that makes absolute sense. We are almost, I think, above, just a minute above. So I'll try to quickly just, get to the last few slides before, I, pause for the day. Because I think this probably warrants, some of the areas you mentioned probably warrants a deeper dive in a follow-up. But obviously these are best practices that, we've seen taking a risk-based approach, etc., that you already mentioned, and building a culture as well, which is something, not really just throwing technology and hoping something sticks, but really changing the culture of the organization itself. I think we are almost at time, so I will try to be, super punctual and wrap it up here. Happy to take any questions that people have shared on chat or elsewhere. We can, respond to folks over email. Otherwise, if there are any closing comments from you, Vishnu, let's take that, and we can wrap up at this point here.
Yeah. First of all, then thanks, Gaurav. Thanks for this opportunity where we started to collaborate and give our um, areas of understanding on this journey. So, having said that, this is a starting point where, as I mentioned, security is also evolving part. So, technology is also getting evolved. So, we can able to see how we can um, evolve on those areas also in coming days, and we can give our insights whatever we gone through, so both from both parties, and if somebody else is going to also be joining in coming days, we will see how to embrace them and take it forward, so that it will
Absolutely.
help us to give the knowledge, whatever been acquired, it can be shared among our community, and that will help us to grow uh, actually very very effectively from a GRC perspective or cyber security perspective or any technology driven perspective. Gaurav.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Vishnu, for your time and generously sharing your experience. We'll keep you posted on the next sessions that we'll be holding as well. Have a
Thanks,
good
Gaurav.
evening. Take
Yeah,
care. Bye.
yeah. Take care. Thank you. Bye.